So what was the one-child policy? Well, the one-child policy was a rule introduced by the Chinese government in 1979 which restricted families or couples to having only one child, and the government fined anyone about £3,000 if they didn't follow the rule. Okay, so every couple could only have one child from 1979 onwards. Now, the reason this was put into place was because China has a massive population, and it did in 1979. But the biggest problem was that this population was growing rapidly, and on average, females had about 5 or 6 children. So the population of China, which was already over 1 billion, was growing rapidly, and the country was running out of resources, running out of room, getting overcrowded, and just something had to be done. Now, the question I always get asked about this is, what happens if you have twins, or if you have triplets, or even octuplets, or something like that? Well, there are a couple of exceptions to this rule that was put in place in 1979, and one of them was this. So if you had twins or triplets, or any other form of multiple children at once, then that was allowed. A few more were, if you had a child and it was disabled, then you could actually have another child afterwards. If both parents were an only child, then those parents could have an additional child as well, so they could have 2 children. And later on, a few years after the first policy was implemented, if you lived in the countryside in a rural area and your first child was a female, you could actually have another child, meaning you could have 2 in total. And finally, if you're not Chinese, the rules don't apply to you. And that's the one-child policy in a nutshell.